against Gerald Nadler here in New York again. Thank you all for coming.
The helicopters are coming out to you now, Michael. Sorry.
Helicopters I hope everyone is having a great 2020.
No. No.
Okay, we certainly are living in interesting times, which is supposedly a Chinese curse. I just found out it's not even a real Chinese curse. We just can't win this year. So interesting times like 2020, I found, are not necessarily the easiest for libertarian candidates. Why? Because people say we are atheists in foxholes. Suddenly we've discovered the joys of bigotry. Now, we know that that is not true. That's actually the charitable interpretation. The bad take is that we just don't give a shit. You know, we just mutter something about let the market work, and then you know, just go off into a corner. That message, if you don't expand on it, it almost sounds, you know, it sounds irresponsible. It sounds like almost dereliction of duty. That is not our message, of course. I think we have to embellish that message and say that, yes, we believe that markets work, yes, we believe that government works, but it is precisely because we do want to solve the problems that we have that we believe this is the answer. Unless we can make this case, we cannot convince the people who think that government intervention in every aspect of our life is the only solution. If we can't convince people that yes, we want that we want universal health care, we cannot convince people that Medicare for all is the only answer. If we don't convince people that yes, we want to solve climate change, we will not be able to convince people to think that the Green New Deal is the only solution. We're a can-do nation, and when there's a serious problem, we expect people to step up, especially people with authority. And who has more authority than the government? And as we know, therein lies the problem. Even under the best of circumstances, with the best intention, power is easily misapplied. And I'm going to give an example from a situation where a lot of us feel we have a lot of power, and often we don't. And that is parenting. Does any kids want to come up here? Okay, 1 out of 2. That's actually pretty good. This is my daughter Isabella. That's my son Julius over there.
Nice.
Julius sometimes needs more incentives to come up, often monetary. Isabella.
And I like both your kids.
It's both sides. So, the second time I took my kids ice skating was when they were 6. They enjoyed it the first time, so I figured after a short refresher they'd be fine. Julius, maybe the reason he's not coming up is because he was perfectly fine. Isabella, on the other hand, had some problems. For whatever reason, she just couldn't find her balance. I told her to take it slow. I had her, I was holding on to her. We went along the barrier. I reminded her how well she skated the last time, when she was a year younger and a year less coordinated. Logic sometimes works on 6-year-olds. It certainly works better than it works on people on Twitter. But this time, it didn't work. So we were at an impasse. The more I talked, the more frustrated I got, the more frustrated she got. Here's my child, one of the absolute best. And yet, somehow, I can't get her to do what I know she can do. What do? Do I yell at her? Do I say, go sit in the corner while Julius high skates? How draconian am I going to have to get? Well, I didn't get the corner. I just skated away. I skated away in hope, prayed, by the time it took me to do one lap, some 8-year-olds came by. They went up to her and said, "Isabella, what's wrong?" Well, they didn't know her name. What's wrong? What's wrong with her? By the second lap, they'd taken her under her wing. By the third lap, it was off to the races. Okay, good. Thank you. Done with you. Bye.
Nice rock. Nice.
All very capitalistic. Okay, so the lesson here is even with authority, with the best of intentions, there is no guarantee that you can do any good. But there are other people who can be. As Barack Obama said in his 2009 inauguration speech, it has been the risk takers, the doers, the maker of things. Some celebrated, but more often men and women obscure in their labor, who have carried us up on this long, rugged path towards prosperity and freedom. And to that list of doers, I'd like to add 8-year-olds. When the government doesn't skate away, we get examples like Helen Chu. She's the infectious disease expert who's been swabbing people for flu in January when the first U.S. cases of COVID appeared. She wanted to repurpose her swabs for COVID and desperately tried to get the CDC and other authorities to let her, but she couldn't. On February 25th, she went ahead anyway and confirmed what she feared. COVID was already widespread. Even then, the CDC denied her the ability to do these tests and instead gave us their own contaminated tests. The result, testing was delayed for weeks, vital weeks, which we could have used to control the spread. In 1980, the MTA was forced to skate away by a transit strike. Enterprising individuals filled the gap with something called dollar vans. Even today, dollar vans have filled the gap where the MTA doesn't go, in transportation deserts. The service is more flexible, it's better, and it costs $2 versus the $2.75 you're required to pay for the MTA. As the MTA now has huge shortfalls, we should consider, should the MTA skate away from buses altogether and just let the enterprising individuals doing dollar vans fill the gap? I think yes. If there are any silver linings to this COVID crisis, it's that the government has been forced to skate away from things like telemedicine restrictions, from requiring out-of-state foreign healthcare providers to have to get re-licensed, and from restrictions on hospitals building new rooms. Hopefully there's no going back, and in the future, firms and individuals will be able to fill these gaps. We must cherish these examples. We must always have them at the ready, and so that our message is not that libertarians don't care, but that we're urging restraint, because that is the only way to solve these problems. We can further bolster our case by pointing out the harm that results when government doesn't skate away. If you're talking to big government fans, ask them about their opinion on the military budget, on foreign wars, on corporate welfare, on PPP, on the drug war, the prison system, and intergenders. This gets into another part of the message. We've shown even when government is virtuous, when it has the best of intentions, it often fails. But often government is not virtuous. It's not selfless. There are always special interests just waiting there to insinuate themselves into the situation. Why? Because people are self-interested. And even the most well-meaning of legislation, they are going to be self-interested, are going to try to put themselves in. That's why we continually get policed by military contractors, by prison operators, and by all the businesses who profited from PPP. Unless legislation is simple, transparent, and focused, the chance of passing something which won't get subverted is very small. If someone tries to tell you that capitalism has made government self-interested, ask them to rewatch the Chernobyl series. Everyone see the Chernobyl series? Okay, good. I love the Chernobyl series because it just shows you that self-interest is always present. For me, one of the most poignant scenes is when the plant owner is talking to the plant chief engineer and saying, God, there are all these people on my back, and you know, if we could just conduct this test and do it and get it over with, you know, everything would be great. And by the way, I can offer you this great position somewhere else in the organization. Is this any different from the quid pro quo we see in capitalism? Absolutely not. We know what happens next. The manager accepts, we get the big explosion. Expecting your socioeconomic system to get people to stop being self-interested is not going to work any more than conversion in Americans. And the reason is because you're trying to make people into something fundamentally they are not. If you try to force this behavior, it's just going to go black market, and it's going to have the same dire results the same things. Aren't business people self-interested? Greedy, even.
Ooh.
Greed. Yes, they are. And since business requires profit above and beyond cost, isn't this always going to make things more expensive than if you got rid of the profit? Well, actually, no. Yes, business people are greedy like all humans. Beauty markets, which we have to yell from the rooftops, is that if we ruthlessly cherish competition and prevent cronyism from bringing the rules, self-interest is beneficial. Competition means that if I try to gouge you, my competition is going to undercut me. It means if I want to increase my profits, the only way I can increase my profits is either by offering something you want more and are willing to pay more, or by the most beautiful thing in capitalism, cutting costs. I love cutting costs. It's not very sexy, but it's really you see this.
Countless would disagree.
He's drinking right now.
Some people disagree, but whenever we see the opportunity to cut costs, things get better. If we were here 100 years ago, what would we be talking about? Food prices. Why would we talk about food prices? Because it was something like 20% of people's budgets. It is not 20% of people's budgets anymore because of the relentless cost cutting that is going on with food. Now, we don't have famines anymore. We can feed everyone, and it is not something we talk about. We could do this with other things. Housing. We have huge amounts of barriers to cutting costs in housing. If we got rid of that, rents would go down, we could solve homelessness, and a lot of the people who are saying cancel rent, they wouldn't hear it. Happen for big, expensive government projects, even if they don't have a profit. Because when they fail, it just leads to the call of, oh, we failed, but we just need more funding. And that, there's no cost cutting. That is the problem. That is why the government is always going to be more expensive. The best presented so far has been one of subtraction. It's just purely, let's get rid of policies which don't help. But I think there are a few policies where we can add as well as subtract. I'll highlight the one that I think is most important. And I think we'll see that even though you're adding something, you're also subtracting a lot of other things, making a simpler policy. That policy is basic income. We live in a very disruptive world. Does anyone have any issues with that statement? We've seen that very much with COVID, but even in normal times, with the free-willing capitalism preach, there's a lot of disruption. Firms fail, they get out-competed, the music suddenly goes on.
Things are starting to get better.
Yes. Disruption happens right now. So, this type of capitalism we preach disrupts jobs and careers. basic income, however, we put it in place. It allows those disrupted the chance to get back on their feet. Done properly, it can be by replacing existing programs, result in a radical simplification of what we have now. It also helps us argue that many of the restrictions that people want are not necessary. People will tell you we need a minimum wage. Well, we all know if we raise the minimum wage too high, then the firms can no longer pay it, and the jobs go away, the firms go away too. With a basic income, we can say, no, we don't need to raise minimum wages to ridiculous levels because people are already covered with basic income. When people tell you we need tariffs, we need farm subsidies, because otherwise the farmers and people disrupted by trade are not going to be able to eat, we can say, no, there's a basic income. We do not need tariffs. We do not need farm subsidies. And when people tell you we need $2 trillion in PPP, we can tell them, no, we don't. People have basic income. You couldn't just say $2 trillion. I know there's some in our community who view basic income with suspicion. I'd like them to carefully consider the argument just given, and arguments such as these, I'd like to reflect the reasons why both Friedman and Hayek were in favor of basic income. Even if you don't believe basic income is a final destination, consider that we are on a ship headed very much in the wrong direction. People want more and more government, and unless we can make the argument that yes, we are for simpler government, but we are also for these other things they want, like universal health care, like climate change, they're just going to regard us as, I don't know, crazy narco-capitalists. We need to win this wider group over. And once we change the ship around and head in the right direction, it'll be much clearer whether basic income is the final destination or maybe just stop along the way, even less government. But first, let's win the people over and get the ship in the right direction. This is why basic income is part of my message, along with skating away, why I think it rounds out our platform of simplifying government. I didn't enter this campaign expecting to win, but I do want to make a point, and I do want to help articulate the message we can build on. I spend a lot of time out on the streets campaigning with my campaign manager Ross over there. Even in this deep blue district, where there's a bias towards big government, many people realize and sympathize with the message that things are too complicated. They're ready for something new. I've talked on a couple of Yankees podcasts. The reception there has been, wow, these ideas make sense. But key to getting them has been stepping back from proposals like M4H and the Green New Deal and stressing that, yes, we want the same goals as you do. If we can show people that their concerns are front and center, and when we say smaller government, when we say simplify, we'll have lots of confidence. So I encourage you to join me with that. Thank you very much.
Woo! Marco!